Konbanwa. This is a short video with technical and foreign terms pronounced by a foreign reader. I've added a glossary handout to the discussion board. I will, however, cover the initial key term of my presentation, which is Scanlation, a portmanteau word of scanning and translation. Scanlation is a that is amateur activity that involves the disassembling of manga or Japanese comics, scanning them, removing the Japanese text, inserting an English translation, and uploading the digital files for non-profit distribution. The primary motive for Scanlation is the unavailability of the work outside of Japan. Scanlation is more than simply mechanically scanning in the text and dropping in a translation. The digital editing required is a skilled task. The translation is of colloquial Japanese to usually American English, and scanlators are also frequently faced with translating onomatopoeia, requiring a further level of creativity and skill. Moreover, the original text is often integrated into the image in such a way that the meaning cannot be readily separated either physically or conceptually. Legally, translation is counted as a derivative right, but the translation of manga can be seen as a transformative act because of the change in the visual text interplay. However, the transformative aspect is complicated by the scanlator's desire for authenticity, which often involves considerable labor to achieve or to restore, as in the case of the badly translated work. In addition to having digital skills and linguistic talent, scanlators often make sophisticated decisions about whether to localize or foreignize the translation. The end result may thus be invisibly transformed. Scanlators are often motivated by a desire to redress a poor official translation, to introduce a favorite manga's work to a new audience, or to push a publisher into releasing the work. In all cases, staying true to the original is a guiding motive. Ironically, this attempt to stay true is one way that the work falls short of the transformative test in fair use cases. The variety of skills needed means that scanlation is invariably a collective act. The idea that there is one new creator of this work is not applicable. The amateur status of scanlators is important, and their activity forms a community that, while geographically dispersed, has its own norms and sense of ethics. Far from disrespecting ownership, the work of scanlation is seen as akin to curatorship. So, scanlation sits at the intersection of law, technology, and culture. And while not fitting neatly into current modes of transformative sound activities, it attempts to subvert several aspects of copyright law. As such, it offers a new way of examining intellectual property in the digital era, and moves towards a new model of communal knowledge building and creative labor, reminiscent of an early modern guild system. At the same time, Scanlation offers a culturally hegemonic and US-centric model, but this is not necessarily inconsistent with a fan-driven approach. For this presentation, I focus on how this may tie to some core aspects of a particular genre within manga, that is of yaoi. The full paper considers current sound models and proposes a model of sound and reader activity based on a guild analogy while incorporating concepts of real property ownership. I'll sketch that briefly. However, the new material I'm developing for the full paper, and on which I'd really appreciate feedback, is that the elements of cultural, and in the genre I use as a case study, sexual identity appropriation, are at play in the scanlation phenomenon, and that these appropriations go hand in hand with the willingness to violate copyright in the name of admiring a work, a nation, and a sexuality. So, briefly, I see the work of scanlators as akin to a guild system. The scanlators appreciate the manga's work as that of a mastercraft person in their shared enterprise, but they see themselves also as creators in the same field. They seek to emulate and learn aspects of the trade, and to also enhance the reputation of the mangaka, the genre of manga, and also of their own scanlation team. The scanlation world is essentially a gift economy, trading in social credit and reputation. Thus, those who produce shoddy work or who download more than they upload, also known as leechers, lose face, while those who produce fast and accurate titles are rewarded with respect. Because scanlation is not a simple rip-and-burn operation, there is significant learning-oriented activity going on in service of cultural appropriation. Like many skilled workers and craftsmen, scanlators may feel a pride in temporary ownership of an object that they labor over but is not theirs to keep. The labor pursuant is not done for hire or even for sweat equity, but for communal betterment and status. The Scanlators have an investment in the social order and well-being of the producers and of the manganka's career. In return, the publishing trade have access to a self-trained pool of translators as well as the equivalent of explorers into new markets. They can see if demand for title exists without risking their own investment. So in this model, the text is owned and invested in by all at the level of cultural capital, even if the financial rewards are reserved for the publisher and manganka. However, because the Scanlator's loyalty is not ultimately to the manganka but to the text, the author can find their wishes ignored even while they themselves are admired. The work and the text are, in the Scanlator Guild's view, paramount, and the original creator can be an obstacle in some fans' eyes. If the manganka is not willing or able to share the work in a satisfactorily translated form, the Scanlators will place accessibility over master-apprentice hierarchy. Scanlators are not generally antagonistic to their manganka, but some take an attitude reminiscent of the reasoning that Harriet Beecher Stowe encountered. As Melissa Homestead reports, the feeling was that Stowe had already been more than adequately compensated for her labor, and that she should not be able to prevent others from producing their own translations, in effect asking for more compensation even though she would not labor for that additional compensation. So some Scanlators take the stance that owners who do not use their derivative rights, that is, license for translation, lose their stake. The resource should not lie fallow, and perhaps in the more of the poaching paradigm, the work is seen as available for common use. So the longer paper draws here connections to concepts about real property that focus on the right to use or appropriate things to which one does not hold a title, such as the second enclosure movement, eminent domain, adverse possession, and usufruct. The different power relations inherent in the terms are valuable for the light that they shed on the complicated power relations between Scanlators, publishers, and authors. So Douglas observes that in what has been called the gentleman's agreement, most Scanlation sites agree to promptly remove any material at the request of the original publisher, and most publishers then have until recently limited the majority of their requests to occasions when official translations are about to be released into non-Japanese markets. So you could argue that the respect for licenses in the manganka seems to speak to a sense of fair play. But there is a privileged hegemonic relationship between the United States firms and the Japanese publishers that excludes the rest of the world. In practice, what this means is that when a United States license is announced, Scanlations are pulled, which leaves non-United States readers without access to either the legal version or the Scanlated version. It's also a privileging by the Scanlators of the United States market. The United States licensee matters more than the foreign publisher or the author's rights. So there is an element of intercultural appropriation or of entitlement in the insistence of Western fans that they should have the manga. There is a further US-centric aspect in the willingness to infringe upon foreign publishers' rights, but a lesser willingness to break domestic copyright laws. While the conventional model is that Hollywood is often the victim of Eastern, in that case read Chinese, digital pirates, this reverse cultural plundering of Japanese cultural capital is seen as relatively harmless. So, we in the West subvert and transform, while you in the East plunder and pirate. This appropriation of property and text are, I argue, paralleled by the cultural appropriation of Japanese culture by Western hands and by the sexual appropriation of gay male experience. This hegemonic activity is, as it so often is, disguised by the genuine appreciation for the forms being borrowed, and a denial that harm is intended. While it's fair to say that the majority of manga fans are Japanophiles, they cannot but help be having a Western filter on Japanese culture. Stereotypes feed into this appropriation. For example, manganka, especially in the genre of yaoi where most authors are female, traditionally express humbleness in their book's introduction. Taken at face value, a Scanlator misreads the author as perhaps insufficiently invested in pushing their book in foreign markets, and then gallantly takes on the role for them. The Scanlated copies of the genre of yaoi can be interpreted as an appropriation on several levels of male gay experience, and this is also by the manganga an original market too, of Japanese culture, and of the text itself. Yaoi is one of the most frequently scan-related genres of manga, due in part to its limited availability for censorship reasons, for marketing reasons in the United States. The yaoi sensibility is often focused on possession of the beloved, on hierarchies and roles, such as seimei and uke, and a twin's disregard for convention in the service of the goal, and a deep respect for convention. So, in short, a romantic outlook made for the Scanlation Guild ethos. This quickly sketched study of yaoi points to an attitude towards physical and intangible property that is particularly capitalist and Western. It may be stretching a point to start throwing around terms such as imperialist and manifest destiny, but they reside at one end of an acquisitive continuum, where at the other end is perhaps a collective desire for completeness, an otaku sensibility, if you will, that wants to possess what it loves, paired with a connoisseur's attempt at seeing a work of art being unappreciated or underappreciated.